The candle on my birthday cupcake flickered once, then went out on its own. On the phone screen before me glowed 9 words that burned deeper than any flame ever could. She's the only one who makes us proud. My mother's comment, public, pinned permanent, sat beneath my sister Brooke's photo at the airport. Paris trip. First class. Smiling like she'd just won the lottery my parents had apparently funded. I was 30 that day. 30, and sitting alone in a quiet Richmond apartment that smelled faintly of takeout and loneliness. The cupcake I'd bought myself was supposed to feel symbolic, something sweet, something small, but now it looked pathetic, melting under its own candle wax. I kept refreshing the post like punishment. Hearts and confetti filled the comments. Brooke, 26, our golden girl. And me? No call, no text, not even a lazy happy birthday message. I told myself I shouldn't be surprised. I'd always been the afterthought. Brooke got dance recitals and private tutors. I got hand-me-downs and advice to be practical. When I'd asked to take photography lessons, my dad had laughed and said, "You can't eat dreams, Ash." I'd saved for a camera anyway, working late shifts bagging groceries, then stood alone at my high school art show when my parents never showed up. That was years ago. Yet somehow today hurt worse. Out of habit, or maybe self-destruction, I called Mom. She answered mid-airport chaos, voice breathless with excitement. "Oh, Ashley, hi. Can I call you later? We're boarding." "It's my birthday," I said quietly. A pause. "Oh, right. Happy birthday, honey. Love you." Click. The silence that followed felt heavier than any rejection I'd ever known. I turned to the glowing laptop on my kitchen table, opened the joint account I'd shared with my parents, the one I'd created 6 years ago after Dad's heart surgery. Back then, they'd been drowning in bills. I'd just landed my first decent job in pharmaceutical sales and wanted to help. $500 automatically sent each month. 6 years. $36,000. I'd never asked for thanks. But when I saw the Paris trip photos again, something inside me began to tremble. I scrolled through the account history, groceries, utilities, car payments. Then $4,000 travel agency, $2,500 boutique shopping, $10,000 deposit into Brooke's personal account. Memo, gift, the room blurred. They hadn't been surviving. They'd been spoiling her with my money. I leaned back in my chair, pulse pounding. 6 years of sacrifice, of skipped vacations, of instant noodles when bills stacked too high. All while they played benefactor with my paycheck. I stared at the screen, then at the cupcake, then back at the screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The rational part of me whispered, "Don't." The wounded part whispered, "Enough." I clicked, "Withdraw." 3 days later, the balance was gone, moved quietly, methodically, back into my account. It wasn't theft. It was reclamation. That night, guilt kept me awake. The ceiling felt like a judge. But then I remembered Mom's comment, those 9 words carved in digital stone. She's the only one who makes us proud. The guilt dissolved into something colder. Resolve. Brooke called from Paris on the 3rd day. I almost didn't answer. Oh my God, Ashley, this city. Mom and Dad are being so generous. You'd love it. Sounds nice, I said. I know you've been helping them out. So thank you. You probably made this possible. She meant it sincerely. That made it worse. When I hung up, I hurled my phone across the couch and whispered into the empty room. Not anymore. I didn't know it yet. But that single decision, to take back what was mine, would unravel everything. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of what came next. The first call came 2 weeks later. "Ashley, we need to talk," my father said, his tone already sharp with accusation. About what? I asked, though I knew. The account. There's been some kind of error. Over $30,000 gone. No error, I said evenly. I withdrew it. Silence. Then, you what? It was my money, Dad. I put it in there. I took it back out. He sounded stunned, like I'd confessed to a crime. That money was for emergencies. We were counting on it. Emergencies? I repeated. Like a trip to Paris? Another long silence, broken only by the sound of his breathing. That's different, he said at last. Brooke needed a break. She's been working so hard. Something inside me snapped. And I haven't? My voice rose before I could stop it. I've been working my whole life trying to prove I exist in this family. 6 years, Dad. 6 years of payments. And you never once said thank you. That's not fair, he murmured, but there was no weight behind it. No, I said quietly. What's not fair is pretending one daughter matters and the other doesn't. I hung up before he could reply. My hands were trembling again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. The rush of finally standing up for myself. That night, my mother called. Her voice was high and thin with outrage. How could you do this to us, Ashley? We trusted you. You trusted me? I laughed bitterly. You've been lying to me for years. We didn't lie, she snapped. We just didn't think you'd make such a big deal out of it. A big deal? That was $36,000, Mom. Well, Brooke's been going through a lot. She needed our support. And I didn't? Her silence said everything. When she finally spoke, her words were daggers wrapped in sugar. Your father and I are very disappointed in you. I let out a shaky breath. Of course you are. I've always been the disappointment, right? Brooke can do no wrong but me. I'm just the screw-up who doesn't deserve anything. That's not, she began. But I hung up again. I didn't cry. Not this time. The tears were gone, replaced by a hollow ache that throbbed deep in my chest. For years I'd accepted the quiet cruelty of being overlooked. But hearing my mother justify it, hearing her excuse it so easily, that was the breaking point. I poured everything I had into something new. The medical billing course I'd found online, 6 months long, $8,000 up front. Before I would have said it was too expensive. Now it felt like an investment in my own freedom. I started studying at night, logging into classes after work. The content was dense, insurance codes, compliance rules, endless regulations, but I loved it. It was something mine. One evening at a coffee shop, I met Patricia, a single mom in her 40s taking the same course. She laughed easily, the kind of laugh that made hard days seem lighter. You're doing the right thing, she told me one afternoon. Investing in yourself. It's the smartest thing you can do. At work, my colleague Vanessa noticed the change too. You seem different, she said over coffee. I stopped being everyone's backup plan, I said simply, but the guilt still crept in at night. Was I really free? Or just pretending? Then I'd hear my mother's voice again. She's the only one who makes us proud. And the guilt would vanish like smoke. The phone rang one evening. Brooke again. I ignored it, but her message played anyway. Mom and Dad are furious, Ash. What happened? They said you took their money. Please, just call me. I stared at the screen for a long moment before deleting it. For the first time in 30 years, my silence wasn't weakness. It was power, and I intended to keep it. The call came late one Sunday morning. Dad again, this time his tone quieter, steadier, the calm before a storm. Ashley, he said, your mother and I just want to talk. Can we come by? Part of me wanted to hang up. Another part wanted them to see what they'd done. So I agreed. They arrived at noon. Mom carried a box of pastries, as if sugar could erase betrayal. She placed it on my table, eyes scanning my small apartment with polite disapproval. "So," she began, "you took the money." I met her gaze. "I reclaimed it," Dad sighed. "Ashley, you have to understand, your sister needed that trip. She's been under so much stress." I let out a dry laugh. "And your solution was to steal from me?" "We didn't steal," Mom snapped. "You're twisting things." "I helped you," I said, my voice shaking. "For years. You used my kindness as your wallet." She folded her arms, defensive. "We thought you were fine. You've always been independent." "That doesn't mean I don't need love, Mom." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Raw, childish, too honest. She blinked, startled, then looked away. The silence between us stretched, heavy and unbearable. Dad cleared his throat. "We just want things back to normal." "There's no normal to go back to," I said softly. "You made sure of that." They left without another word, the untouched pastries still sitting on my table. I threw them in the trash. Days blurred into weeks. I poured my energy into work and my course, pushing everything else to the edges of my mind. Patricia became a real friend, someone who listened without judgment. Vanessa checked on me daily, offering coffee and quiet encouragement. But the nights were harder. That's when the memories crept in, the forgotten birthdays, the small dismissals, the years of trying to earn affection that should have been unconditional. Then Brooke called again. This time I answered, "What the hell, Ash?" she demanded. "Mom says you drained their savings." "I drained my savings," they said. "Of course they did," I interrupted. "They'll say anything to protect their version of the truth." She hesitated. "I didn't know they were using your money." "Did you care to ask?" "That's not fair." "Maybe not," I said. "But it's true." There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. Then quietly, "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "Just learn from it." I hung up before the ache in my throat could become tears. Weeks later, an envelope slid under my door. My parents' handwriting, no return address. Inside, a birthday card, 3 months late, and a check for $500. The note read, "We're sorry we missed your birthday. We hope this makes up for it. Love, Mom and Dad, $500. A price tag on guilt." I tore the check in half. That night I studied until dawn, refusing to give their shame any space in my mind. When the exhaustion finally hit, I realized something strange. I didn't feel broken anymore. The sadness was still there. Yes, but beneath it, a quiet steadiness. For the first time, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was simply becoming myself. And the next call, when it came, would test just how much I'd changed. It was nearly midnight when the email arrived. Subject: Emergency. My mother's voice seemed to echo through the screen as I read, "Your father lost his job last week. We're in serious trouble. We need that money back." "This isn't a request, Ashley. We could lose the house." For a long moment, I just stared. The irony was almost cruel. Now it was an emergency. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. They wanted me to save them again. After stealing from me, after humiliating me, I called Vanessa, my hands shaking. "They said it's an emergency. Dad's unemployed. They might lose the house." She didn't even pause. "Ashley, listen to me. This is not your responsibility." "But what if they're telling the truth?" "Then they can figure it out like adults. They had your help for 6 years and blew it on vacations. Let them face what real life feels like." Her voice was firm, grounding. "You gave them a safety net. They cut it themselves." After we hung up, I wrote my reply. "Mom, I'm sorry to hear about Dad's job, but I can't help you financially. I already gave you $36,000 over the years. And you chose to spend it on things that weren't emergencies. I have my own life now. Maybe Brooke can help this time. Ashley. I hit send and turned off my phone. 3 days later, the call came from the hospital. I got the job. $75,000 a year. Full benefits. Everything I'd worked for, finally mine. I cried in my living room, clutching the phone, tears blurring the room into light. Patricia was the first to hear. "You did it!" she shouted over the phone. "You're free, Ash. This is the life you built for you." Vanessa took me out to celebrate. Real champagne this time. "To new beginnings," she said. "To finally putting myself first," I replied. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The peace lasted exactly 5 days. Brooke showed up at my apartment the next weekend. Pale, eyes swollen, clutching her purse like it was armor. "I had to see you," she said. I sighed, stepping aside. 5 minutes. She stood in my living room, scanning the place like it was a museum of my independence. "I went through their bank records," she blurted. "You were right. Every word. They used your money for everything, even my trip." Her voice cracked. "I confronted them and they said you were exaggerating, that you're trying to make them look bad." I raised an eyebrow. "And what did you say?" "I told them I'm done taking anything from them until they apologize to you." That made me pause. "You did. I did. And they're furious." She wiped her eyes, breathing hard. "I'm moving out. Got my own apartment. Going back to school. I want to be better, Ash. I want us to be real sisters, not whatever this was." For the first time in a long while, I saw her not as the golden child, but as another casualty of our parents' favoritism. "Maybe someday," I said. "But it'll take time." "I'll wait," she whispered. When she left, I realized something. I didn't hate her anymore. She'd grown up the same way I had, just in the light while I stood in the shadows. That night, another email from Mom arrived. "You've turned Brooke against us. You're tearing this family apart. I hope you're happy." I deleted it without replying. I was happy. And that was exactly what terrified them most. She flinched but said nothing. Dad leaned forward. "We want our family back." I stared at him. "You want your ATM back?" Mom's composure cracked. "That's not fair." "No," I said, quiet but firm. "What's not fair is stealing from your own daughter, calling her selfish when she finally stands up for herself." Brooke spoke for the first time. "She's right. You didn't care about fixing things until you needed something. I saw the bank records. Everything she said was true." My mother turned to her, eyes wide. "Brooke, you don't understand." "No, Mom," she cut in. "I understand perfectly. You made me believe I was special while you broke her down." The table went still. My father's eyes shimmered with something between shame and disbelief. "What do you want from us?" Mom finally snapped. "Do you want us to beg?" I shook my head. "I want you to mean it. Tell me one thing you're proud of me for. One moment you celebrated me." She opened her mouth, and nothing came out. Her silence was my answer. "I thought so," I whispered. My father reached across the table, voice cracking. "Ashley, please. We're sorry. We've lost so much already. We might lose the house." "You won't be homeless," I said. "You can work, downsize, start over, just like I did." Mom pushed her chair back, eyes glistening with fury. "You're cruel." "After everything we've done." "Everything I've done, you mean?" I interrupted. She glared at me, then at Brooke. "You're both ungrateful. We raised you better than this." Brooke stood. "No, you raised us to believe love was conditional." They left without another word. The door closed behind them with a sound that felt like finality. Weeks passed. I kept my focus on work, climbing quickly. Caroline promoted me to assistant director of medical billing. The job was demanding, but every email, every spreadsheet, every meeting felt like proof that I'd built something out of ashes. One night, my dad called. I almost didn't answer. "Hi, Ash," he said quietly. "I got a new job. It's smaller, but it's honest work. Your mom's working part-time now." "That's good," I said cautiously. He hesitated. I wanted to say, "I'm sorry, for real this time. Not for the money. For the way we treated you. You deserved better." Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. "Thank you," I whispered. We didn't fix everything that night, but something shifted. For the first time in decades, I heard sincerity in his voice. Mom didn't call for months. When she finally did, it was an email. "Ashley, I'm not good at apologies. But I see you now. I see how wrong we were. I don't expect forgiveness, just understanding." I replied simply, "Thank you for saying that. Maybe someday we can talk." A year later, I celebrated my 31st birthday in my own townhouse, mortgage paid by my new promotion as Director of Revenue Operations. Vanessa toasted me with champagne. Patricia brought cake. Brooke beamed from across the room. "To Ashley," Aunt Linda said, raising her glass. "The woman who finally taught this family what strength really looks like." Everyone cheered. And as I looked around that room full of people who chose me, who saw me, I realized something. Taking back the money had never been revenge. It was self-preservation. I'd spent years begging for pride, for love, for permission to exist. But I didn't need their approval anymore, because I was finally proud of myself. And as laughter filled the room, I knew the truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, standing tall, and never letting anyone make you feel small again.